will start the last talk of the day. Thanks to all of you for coming, because I know that today is a day off here in United States, so you decided, came here for learn things instead to stay in the beach, you know, ending like shirts say us in my country. So I will talk to you about how developer REST services with Play framework and at a security level with JSON Web Tokens. And I will introduce myself. I am Mercedes Wyss. I am coming from Guatemala. I am J leader from a JWT chapter, that I have female Java chapters, and I have a Google community too. I was a member of a Java community there in Guatemala, and now I am a CTO in a startup that is called Productivity, and I am too an OutZero Technologies ambassador. And well, we will talk today about Play framework, how developer REST services, how rendering JSONs, and finally we will talk about JSON Web Tokens. And well, start about Play. Who of you listening about Play before? You don't count. You don't count. Okay, that is good. No, we don't count. You know, the speakers don't count. It's like, yeah. Okay, so Play is a Scala-based framework. So I don't know if you know or listening before about Scala. Yes. Yeah, no, only the same one that they say no, say yes, okay. Well, one of the interesting aspects, or one of the most powerful aspects of Java is the Java virtual machine. So many years ago, I started to create many programming languages that run over the Java virtual machine. And one of those really high-level programming languages that are more modern, because many of them are a functional programming language, is Scala, for example. Other one that is famous now is Kotlin, because it's the new first citizen programming language for developed Android applications. So here we can choose to use the Scala, Java, or indeed use both programming languages when we are developing. The next thing is that Scala, well, is a lightweight framework, stateless and web-friendly. But one of the most interesting things is that we have a minimal resource consumptions when we are development. And I will show you this graph. This is a graph of the CPU consumption of a traces test. I don't know if you, the traces test concept, when we make it. So concurrency, high concurrency. The idea of a stress test in our application is that I will send a lot of requests at the same time. So here in this test, we start sending 10 at the same time, and we end sending, after 3 hours, 50,000 requests at the same time. And if you see here, we don't use more than the 70.5% of the CPU of this server. So now I will ask you that. How many resources do you believe that have this server? For example, how many CPUs, how many RAM have? For can support 50,000 requests at the same time and have that level of consumption? I have idea, right? I only have one CPU and 1 GB of RAM. So this means how powerful can be Play for develop. The next thing is that it's a reactive framework, and this is thanks because it's based in Akka, that is reactive. I think that our friend that I cannot say his Conrad is right, yeah, Conrad talk about the reactive manifest. Other interesting aspect that we don't touch, but I will show you, is that we can make HTML inheritance. So I don't need to rewrite many things that usually I have in a web. So Play works for write web services, but that we can use it for make front-end development too. And sometimes in front-end, we need to have in all our HTML sites, you know, the header, the part of the menu, and we need to rewrite that in every template, and we don't need to do that in Play. The next thing that I like a lot is that use their own app server. So I don't need to configure an app server in my development environment or in my services. I only need to install SVT, and everything will work like magic. So I call that fewer configurations. Sometimes we are not good for make configurations in our services, but we are good development, so we can miss this part. And the next thing is the JRebel Behavior. I don't know if you deploy or make an app sometimes in Java EE, pure Java EE, or yes. So sometimes it's a crap, right? Because we need to configure the server, We need to create our var. Then we need to start the server and say, you know, I need that you may deploy to that var. And that can be fail, or we need to do that every time that I want to take new changes. So exists this tool for zero turnaround that is JRebel, that we only install it, I only may save to my changes and refresh, and I will show them. And Play have inside them this behavior, so I can code more and deploy less. So now how we can start a Play project. So we use SVT, that is build tools for Scala. And we only install that in our computers, and I run the SVT new command, Play framework, and then I choose which one will be my primary language. That can be Java or Scala. And finally, I only go to my folder, project folder, and I run SVT run, and I wait to compile. So I will show you, for example, I make here a Play new for Java. I just choose which is the name of my project, which one will be my package name. Then I choose the Scala version that I will use, the Play version, and the SVT version. So I don't put any value here, so that means that they take the for default, but I can choose, for example, no, I will don't use a Play 2.6, I will use Play 2.5, so I put there 2.5 for set that one. So a framework, as usually, is a set of libraries, so a wall of libraries that I don't need to config by myself, and they will do that for us. So the first time that you run Play, maybe will happen that we download all these libraries that you need, so don't be afraid, just wait and pray, maybe. And finally, we will have running our application. So I made that process before, for don't do that here. We don't know what can happen, so, okay. So the next thing is, where is the basic project structures for a Play? So we will have this here. And we will have here, this app will be the most one that we will use. We have here in controllers, all the controllers, we will talk about that after, and in views, all our HTML files. Then we have in the config directory, we will have our roots directory, we will have our app config, when we config which database we will use, and all these things, and in that our messages files. Then we have the public one, that is this, when we have a static access directory. So I put here my JavaScript, my CSS, my images, especially for create my templates. Then I have the test. Play framework came with an integration with JUnit, so I can make a unit test using JUnit, and I will write all my tests here. And finally, I have a project directory when I have SVT configuration files, and this other one, the build SVT, when I can include extra libraries that are not included in Play. So I will show you here the main Scala HTML. All our HTML use Scala syntax, and I always show you for you see some things. For example, all these HTMLs are connected with our controllers, and so with a RESTful service. Everything in Play are RESTful. So RESTful is a first citizen in Play. So here I am saying that this HTML will receive a parameter that is called title, that is a string, and I can pull this title here. And then I want to show you this content here at content, because here is when I will inject the HTML that are in other HTML. So I will show you this. This one is hierarchy from the main one. So here I am saying that this is hierarchy from main that is receiving anything, and I am sending here the title that main is expecting. And then in the add content that you show there, we will inject this header that say welcome to Play. So now we will continue. The next thing is a controller. Something interesting in Play is that here they call everything actions. So we have actions. An action is not more than a RESTful service. And it's a method that will be manage all our requests and will return a result. And a controller is not any more than a container of many actions. So if we saw here, this is an action, and actions return a result. A result is what will receive our client that is consuming this web service. And we see here other thing that is a method that is called OK. So for example, controller, it came from play.mbc.controller. But he is receiving a hierarchy for order that is called results. So we don't talk much about that, but results have many of these methods. And for example, this OK method returns a 200 status for our client. So the 200 is that everything goes OK, right? You don't know, you see when we enter to a website and say, status 404. This means that that page doesn't exist, and I can make that here too. Or send status 500, or it exists other many ones that we can explore, and exist these specific methods for that. Okay, and now we will continue. The next interesting or important part is the roots file. I need to define every action in my roots files for it can be called from outside. If I don't define the root, it's like that action doesn't exist. So now we will talk about the RESTful services. So if someone don't know, so our services is not anymore than a wall of protocols and standards for can permit communication between two parties. So a party that we call client, another that we call server, that is when our web services, or call to backend, for example. So I only put that for called the RESTful services. Sometimes when I ask, where is the difference between SOAP and RESTful? So what you will answer to me if I say you, where is the difference with the web services SOAP and web services RESTful? Oh, Jesus, what? So what do you say? No way. Okay, many people say SOAP are return XML and RESTful return JSONs. But this is bad because it's the specification of SOAP services are XML, and RESTful are not married with JSONs. Just as typically we return JSONs. So, but RESTfuls are not precisely in the definition of a web service. If not, it's more a software architecture that is based on HTTP methods. There are get, post, delete, update, those ones. So how we will write a web services here in Play in this syntax? So it's really simple. So if you see here, these lines is rendering 200 status, but we are sending that we will renderize an HTML. So what I want when I am making a web services RESTful is don't return an HTML, right? Return other thing, like a JSON. So we only need to change that and say, I will return a message. So I will show you that right now. So I will go here. I have running the project here. So I have running the project. I will mail refresh. Yeah, refresh this. We have the welcome play, and now we will go to the project, and I will change that, and I will say that don't return anymore this HTML, and return a simple text. So I will put here aloha lava 1. Okay. Now I only will return here, and I may refresh. And I have aloha lava 1. You see? Fast. So we don't need to make any redeploy. I only need to save and refresh things. So we will continue right now. Oh, Jesus. There it is. Okay. So now, well, we want to return JSONs. So I don't know if you see some JSON before. Yes? Many of you, yes? Okay. So someone say no, or don't want to say anything, but JSONs came from JavaScript object notations, and some interesting aspect is that, well, I don't know if you see before a XML, but are really hard to read the information that is coming in a XML. And the other aspect is that when an XML is based on an open tag and a closed tag, we are sending more information than what we need, because I am duplicating tags. So that means that we are traveling more data. So this is something complicated, especially when we are talking about mobile applications, for example, that use a limited resource of internet if we have a plan. So usually in mobiles, I don't have velocity. I have limited of download, so I only have 3 gigas. And I will expand of those 3 gigas that information for transport this. So the other thing is that human reading. For that is really, really useful. And here is how we can construct a JSON So all start with these curly brackets, and all our keys are on a string, and then we have these two dots and a value separated by colon. And we can have arrays that I start with the brackets, and this is the kind of values that we can have. And if someone never saw a JSON, this is a JSON. So JSONs, lava1 JSONs. Okay, and well, how works this in Play? So Play is based in libraries, and use the Jackson library. That is a really good one, the most used in Java for convert objects to JSON and JSONs to objects. And they have their own util for make that is in play libs.jsons. So I will show you now how we can return a map, for example, as a JSON. So I am creating here a map. And I am putting, so for example, that's of an event, and I am putting the name of the event is lava1. Our track is a unique track. So my talk is about RESTful services with Play, and it's today, for 15 to 16. And then I have here imported my playlibs.json, and the only thing that I am doing is use it JSON, and I say to JSON, and will transform this map to a JSON. So we will do that right now, for you see that are not lies. That is true. So we will return here. And I will import, oh, it's not there, wait. It's here. There it is. So I will make import play.mbc.json. There it is. So I will create other method. So I will call that one public result, and I will say return map. So now I need to import to my hash map. Is import java.mbc util.hashmap. There is. Very good. Now I will create a map here. Say hash map, the string.object, and I will put result equals to new hash map equals a string object, this and this. So I will add information from here. There is. So we will put a put. So I will put a key, for example, attendance. I will put that we are like 50 here. Okay. When we put here in a day off. Very good. So I have that, and now I need to put my return. And it's not here, it's here. Okay, and I will use the JSON to JSON, and I am sending my result. So right now I create my activity with this, my action, and the other important thing that I need to do is add that one to my roots files. If I don't add that action, is like don't exist for be used. So I will came here and I will copy that. For don't write that wrong, I will came here. So for my roots, the only thing that I need to do first is specify which HTTP method I will use for consume it. So I will put here get. The next thing is specify how I will consume it. So to my domain, I will add this next. So I will put map only here, and then I need to specify where is. I will put controllers dot HomeController dot. Oh, okay. I think that I copy everything. Okay. There is. Okay, really good. So, and I will put that with lowercase. Really good. So I put get, so that means that I can consume that from my browser. So I will put that here map, and now I will receive a JSON. happening nothing. Okay, we have a issue. Play MVC, yes. Plays leaves. Okay, really good. So I run that here. Because it's play leaves. Play leaves. There is. There is. So we are receiving a JSON. So we will continue. No, there is. So now we want to return an object, so we will create an object like this one, like say event or anything else. And well, we only will create the object, and we will say here, well, now that to JSON, instead to rendering a hash map, will render in an object. And I will show you too how catch an object, for we can make that in a demo live. So in this case, I will use a JSON node object for the JSON library, and I will say that to my request, the body of my request is a JSON, and I need to add to when I consume the service, putting the header that the content type that I am sending is a JSON. If not, this will not working. Then I can convert equals with the JSON library that I have in JSON, using the method from JSON that I will convert this JSON node to that class that I want. And finally, we will return this same object for verify that we received the right thing. So we'll return to the Visual Studio Code, and I need to add an import here that is for the JSON node object of JSON. There is, so I will put here import com.fast.xml.json.databin.json node. So I hope that is okay. Okay, now we will go here at the end, and I will create here other package for can hold my, oh no, this one, no. Escape. There is. So I will put beans. Very good. And now I will create here an object, add file, and I will put, I don't know, any.java. There is. So package com 0.beans package. I see. There is. Okay, really good. And I will put, I don't know, a public string event and a public in attendance. Very good. And now I will create a constructor that receive anything, and other one that receive my string event and my int attendance. Very good. Okay, very good. So now I go to my home controller, and I will import this new object that we created here. Very good. Import 0.beans.any. Very good. Now I will create this object, public result, y vamos return object. There is. So I will create my any object, and I will send here my number of the event, lava 1, 2018, and 15. Very good. And now we will have here our return okay, JSON.toJSON, and I will put any here. And I will create the other one too. Will be public result va a ser catch object. Oh, I put, okay, very good. Now I will create here my JSON node. JSON node equals to request into body. And now I will say that I want that body as a JSON. Very good. Now I will create my object any from that JSON node using my JSON So I will indicate that from this JSON node that we catch and will be the any.class. Very good. So now I only finally just will return that one as a JSON. Oh, to JSON. And that will be fail because I write JSON body here. Okay, very good. So we need to define these two actions, return object and catch object in our roots file. So I will go to the roots ones, and I will define that those ones could be only consumed by post. So I will put here, and I will use catch. Put controllers dot home controller dot catch and this other one, and I will put here. There is, and this will be a return. Return okay, there is. So now I will try to, for example, well, I will go to the catch, return, no, return object, no, there is. Okay, return. Okay, now I will try to consume this return one from my browser, and my browser will tell me that I cannot do that because I defined that method by, there is, by post, and our browser consume everything like get. So now I will return, but I will use the insomnia one. So I will duplicate this one, and I will put a return object. I will change that, and I will say that I want use post, and I just will add the return here, and I will send that and say that we have an error. Oh, yes. I didn't save that file. Oh, yes, that, thank you. There is, very good. Okay, there is, so we receive this JSON, and now we will consume the other one, but we will send this JSON. So I will duplicate that again. There is, and now will be a catch object. Catch object. Okay, delete, there is. Now I will change these two for post, and I will put, instead of a body, I will say that is a JSON, so that will ask for us the header that we need to send, that is application.json. If not, that will not work. And I will put here that now will be a catch, and I will return here and copy our JSON. And there is. So this, take this JSON and return the same one to us. So we will continue now for talk about the other part, that is JSON Web Tokens. There is. So I don't know if you listening before about JSON Web Tokens. No. Okay, don't worry. Yeah, a little bit say, I know that exists, but I don't know where is it. Okay, don't worry. Well, JSON Web Token is an open standard that was created in 2014, and that is based in transport information in a JSON standard, but encrypted, in a way encrypted. So we will see that. A JSON Web Token is something like this. So and it's divided in this. So we will have a header, our claims, that is the information that I am sending, and have a signature. And usually just the JSON Web Token are only the header and the claims. We join the JSON Web Tokens with other of the standard created in this time, that is JSON Web Encryption. And the idea of the have an encryption is that we use a secret key for encrypt all this information in that when the people can see it. But they can take that, but they cannot modify that information that we are sending. Yes? Okay. So returning to this one, for example, in the headers of these JSON Web Tokens, I have this thing. I specify which algorithm I use for sign my JSON Web Token, and I specify which type of JSON Web Token is. The problem is that these always are traveling with JWT. So some libraries sometimes miss at this claim, the type one. And for example, if you are using different libraries in two different clients, for example, I am using one in Java, and a guy of iOS can't use the same one that I am using in Java, right? Because they are programming with Swift or with Objective-C. So for example, in one project, I have that problem. So our library in Java was missing this type claim, but the library in iOS was expecting it. So he'll never receive valid tokens, and the server never received valid tokens, and was only for that. So then I will show you the claims that have these JSON Web Tokens. So here is when I can send anything in a JSON format. So I am sending a sub, a name, and admin. So with these claims, something interesting is that exists register claims. So are predefining claims that I can use for different purposes. So in this case, we were watching this of sub, that is for specify who in the server was signing this token. Other interesting register claim that is really used is the expiration one. So for example, imagine you a banking application. So we cannot have a permanent access or session in a bank application as we have, for example, in Twitter or in Facebook. So one of the security aspects in a bank application is that I can only have a open session for 3 minutes, for example. If I don't make any movements in 3 minutes, I need to require to the client that close the session and reopen it again for security. So I can put to my JSON Web Tokens an expiration time. So if one token came after that time, I will say this token is not anymore valid, and you need to generate a new one again. JSON Web Signature, that is for put the last part. We don't saw that. It's just have the encrypted, the secret key that we use. And we can use several algorithms for that one. And here, other tip about security is that doesn't care if you are using the most better security algorithm for encrypt, if you are using the most weak password for do that. So I'm using QWERTY or 1, 2, 3 for sign my JSON Web Token, so that will not work. So we will continue, and if you want to see in deeply this about JSON Web Tokens, I invite you to visit this JWT.io website, and you can taste, for example, your JSON Web Tokens and see what is happening there. In the more about, we will show the website. You can see, for example, it was properly signed, or have two lists of libraries that you can use with different programming languages for can improve them. So now, what problem solves JSON Web Tokens? So many people know JSON Web Tokens for solve only authentication and authorization things, but we can use more deeply other things. For example, federated identity, that is when I make login with Facebook and Twitter, all these platforms return to us always a JSON Web Token as token or identification to them. So the other thing that I like it, and I will, my talk is about use in then, is for information exchange information. So instead to I am sending my JSON in plain text to my client since the server, I can use JSON Web Tokens for transport this information. I will show you a case of why I decided to start to use JSON Web Tokens as information exchange. The other thing is, for example, in client-side sessions, one thing that happened when I am making a front-end app and I am saving things in the session is that anyone can make and say inspect this website and see the session and can touch this information. So when these informations came to the server, someone modified it. So can occur cases when that is complicated, especially, for example, if I am making a website store like Amazon, because someone can inject that things. So if I use JSON Web Token, in that when the people can saw the information, they cannot modify it because it's signed. So I will explain a little bit how works the process of authentication and authorization if you never see this. But this is a basic diagram, what happened between the client and the server. So the first part is when we make the authentication process, that is not any more than when we make a login. So the guy of the client came and said their user and password, or that can be other strategies like passwordless, for example, and we only will be verified to that guy is saying the or sending the correct credentials. If that happens, we will create here a JSON Web Token. In this part, the interesting is the only one that have the secret key when it's signed this JSON Web Token is the server side. The clients never have access to that secret key. So anyone can decrypt the JSON or create a new one, only the server. And we return this JSON Web Token to the client. And the client will save this JSON Web Token for identify himself into the server every time that we consume a service. So this is what happened, for example, Facebook have saved their JSON Web Token. So when we have a permanent open sessions, we have a token that can be a JSON Web Token. So then, how happened the authorization process? So any web service that I consume, I will send that JSON Web Token in the authorization header, and the server will verify that this token is properly signed and really corresponds to the person that says that it is, and if he has access to what he wants consumed. So for example, I don't know if you see that in banks applications, sometimes we have levels of access. It's like you need to have a token, I don't know, these physics things that give you a number. I don't know if this is used here. Yes, he said yes, but you are from London. Europe, yes. But we use that in Guatemala, so I don't know. It's our security things. There are two, when we make signing in 2 steps. So you put your username and your login, and then they ask you for put a number that is generated. This is the token, yeah, these things. So, for example, if you never go to make the process to can obtain one of those tokens, you cannot make some things in the mobile app. So imagine that someone don't have this token and try to access, for example, I don't know how it's called, ACH. We call that a transaction when we make transfers between 2 banks different. Yeah. So if you don't have that, you cannot make that process in the app. But it can be that someone asks for that, do that. So I will validate in the token if he has access to that. Not only to the token is a valid one. And then, well, if the response is successful, I will respond to him, yes, your transaction was done. Or, no, you know, you don't have authorization for make that. Or, I don't know. You can make whatever. You know, banks are expert on always send that wrong message. Like, we cannot process your credit card because, but we are saying that your credit card is expired. Yes, yeah, that happened. So, well, I will talk to you, for example, for using as an information exchange. So I use the JWT library, and this is my SVT, my build.svt file. So I am adding here the library. They use their own syntax, but in basically is the same if you use Maven or you use Gradle, right? That we have the package, we have the artifact name, and we have the number version. And I am embedded this one because the Play don't have one library that need the JWT library, so I embedded that too. And then how we can generate a JSON Web Token. So I am creating my own JSON Web Token Utils.java, and I am putting here for generate a token. I am sending my object that can be anything that I want. First, I am putting a result that will have anything. Then I, using the JWTs library of the JWT, I said I will create a builder. I will set my own claims that can be the registered one. In this case, I am only putting my one that is JSON. Here, I can put the object. But what I discovered when I am implementing this is that, okay, yes, when I create this, really travel in the format of a JSON. But when I catch that in my client, I am done receiving a string JSON that I can transfer to other objects. If not, I am receiving a hash links for transforming. So I need to parse this manually for convert to an object. So I resolved to transport my JSON like a JSON string for can take it and saying my client, convert that to an object instead to stay fighting with the library or finding someone that works magically. And finally, I am signing that with the HS 256, and I am putting my super password secret. Just for the example, here is when you need to create a really, really high secure password for that. And finally, I have only here an exception if something failed here, and I return this new JSON Web Token. And then I here a method, an action for can return this JSON Web Token. So I create this event object, and I am using, instead to use that to JSON, I'm using my own JWTUtils for generate this JSON. And how I can validate the JSON. So I create here other one. This is something that I don't like about the JWT library, because they don't have a method that we can validate that. If not, I need to access to the JSON Web Token and try to get the claims, and they will be show me an exception that is signature exception for saying me that is not properly signed. So for example, now I am migrating my Android apps to Kotlin, and in Kotlin they send to the hell all the exceptions. So they don't force you to put these tries and catch. So if someone don't know that, never will can validate their tokens. So the exception will be jump, but will happen nothing. So for validate that, I need to catch this signature exception. In my case, I am only sending a result true or false about if this is true or not. So at the beginning, my JSON Web Token is not true. Then I try to catch my claims. If all this happens correct, that means that my JSON Web Token was properly signed, and I can continue and send my result. So now I how implement that. So I will receive a token. So now instead to receive a JSON, I just will receive a simple text because it's my JSON Web Token. I will ask that for the body of my request. I will put that in a string, and I am using my JWTUtils for validate this JSON Web Token. So what happened to me for the site that used JSON Web Token? So I was developing many mobile banks in my country. We're in that for Central America, and well, you have that, right? Imagine this is an example, simple. We have our account name and our account number, and the banks are really paranoid guys about security in that when they have the worst security strategies. Yes, I will tell you what I am saying that, yes. When I was developing one app, we discovered that we can make SQL injection from the login form in the website. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I say we need to make our grandpas and save the money in our bets. This is the best way for save our money. The only problem is that don't provide credit cards or loans or better, but the money is saved, good saved. So they say, in that when we are using a so expensive SSL certificate for transfer information, we need to transfer that encrypted. So what we expected, use an AAS algorithm and create that, but no, they resolve it, use that. Yes, really bad, okay? We have many issues here. This is a small JSON, but imagine your transactions. I want to see the transactions that I made with my credit card this month, like 20 transactions. So this is a big one. So here we have the first problem in this is a performance issue, because we need to decrypt by one line any one of these tags. So instead to make these things one time, you need to make that, for example, 50 times. But the next thing is that, well, I can know what are the unencrypted information and how looks the encrypted information. And that means that I can make reverse engineering. So using these two things, I can know where is the key and the algorithm that those information were encrypted. So it's like, oh, really good. So say, I need to, you cannot go to guys and say, you know, you are making that wrong because are so idiots. No, no. So I say, you know what? It's better that we use an open standard as something that was created a long time ago and is really tested and don't have issues and blah, blah, blah. We can use JSON Web Tokens. So that was the way that I convinced their instant to use that. So I think that we don't have much time more. So I combine that with JSON Web Encryption. We don't talk about that. But the problem with the JSON Web Tokens and JSON Web Signature is that, okay, yes, it's signed, but I can see what is traveling inside the JSON. But if I combine those one with JSON Web Encryption, I don't show what is traveling in the JSON Web Token because it's now traveling encrypted too. So if you want to read more about JSON Web Tokens, I join to you to read this book that had many, many examples, not only for these ones, you know, for other cases, especially for web, for read it. Okay, now this presentation will be available in this GitHub repo, in this live code too, with the JSON Web demo. And this is my Twitter and my fan page if someone wants to follow me. And I think that we have less minutes for questions. If not, you can, well, catch a few of each returning home. Thank you.